Hi everyone, this is Frank from targetedtechtalk.com. For today's video, we're going to be talking about a software and system called ESP32 Marauder. So this is a security tool that can be used for both offensive and defensive purposes for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth related systems. So I want to start today's video with a brief disclaimer. I and my website do not provide any legal or medical advice. So kind of start with that background. We're going to be talking about a security tool. So the appropriate use for this tool would be for defensive purposes or to test your own network. So that's the appropriate context for this. I do not advocate the use of a tool like this for offensive purposes, for networks that you do not own or do not have the consent to test. And if you do so, that could be considered outside the law. So that is a little bit of disclaimer and background for today's discussion. So we'll be talking about the ESP32 Marauder. The software is an open source package, so that's available for free download. You do need some hardware to run this on, and I did basically a complete build from scratch following some reference videos, so I'll provide some links and some information about the approach I took, and then towards the end of the video, we'll demonstrate this application running, as well as give you some other options for kind of getting this tool yourself, whether you want to build it from scratch or you're looking for more of a prepackaged approach. So that will be the topic for today's video. So this is what the parts list looks like if you're going to be building the ESP32 Marauder from scratch. So it would require a LCD screen. So that's kind of pictured here. In the case here, it kind of comes with a protective screen, kind of plastic film over it. So that's not damage to the screen. That's just the plastic screen cover there. I would recommend leaving the screen cover on until you're done with the assembly process if you opt to go this route. So then you would also have an ESP32. So that's the microcontroller pictured above the two squares here. So it's the this section here that's called the microcontroller, and that's where the name ESP32 comes from. That's a pretty popular microcontroller used all over the place in different kinds of devices. So it happens to be good for prototyping and doing kind of home lab builds. And that is, this microcontroller is required for the Marauder. Then we've got two breadboards. So these are the mini breadboards. And then we've got some jumper cables. So these are the wires that would connect up on the breadboard as you're doing the build. And then some pins to connect into the breadboard. And then a power supply. So this is kind of just kind of a regular cell phone power supply, so that the device can be portable. You don't have to tether it to your computer. So that's what the parts list looks like. You can find the specific links online if you're looking to do a full build for this. Just kind of check out or do a search for ESP32 Marauder build on YouTube, and you should come up with some similar stuff. So that's what the starting point for the parts list looks like. It also has a SD card here for storage. So now we'll jump ahead and show you what the completed wiring looks like. So this is what the completed wiring looks like. So we've got the ESP32 here, kind of bridges between the two boards, and then we've got kind of the pin connectors here top row and bottom row. One thing that I would note, if anyone is following along on the full build, the instructions that I found kind of took this approach with the breadboards, with the promise that there would not be any soldering. That ended up not being the case with this particular parts list. I did have to solder in 4 points. The pins here for the SD card connector, there were 4 pins at the bottom that I did need to solder in. Outside of that, everything else was based on the breadboard, so just kind of push it in. But just sort of a heads up, if anyone is doing the full build and following along with instructions online, I did need to take that step. I did do some researching, and there's really not any versions of this screen that have the pins pre-done. There is a recommendation I have for sort of a complete pre-built package at the end. We'll cover that. But this is sort of the wiring connection step. And basically, once this is done, then you can kind of flip the screen over and push it into the top and bottom pins here. And that's basically the way everything works. So the next step after the wiring is to install the firmware. So kind of flash the device in memory with the ESP32 Marauder program. So I'm going to pause here for a second. Basically, kind of what I came up with my research is that if you don't want to go through this complete wiring process, if anyone's interested in electronics and wants more control and flexibility, or if you're just interested in learning more about electronics, this is not this is kind of a moderate level complexity project. It does require a soldering iron for the 4 points, but nothing too crazy if you know a bit of electronics. And the breadboard here, the wiring connectors, it takes a bit of a practice to kind of understand the diagram and go through the steps for sure. So I would say if anyone is interested in this tool and wants a more pre-built approach, you can actually get an ESP32 already connected to a board with the LED or LCD output, as well as the storage card. So you can buy everything together as a single unit instead of assembling things at this point. So I just wanted to put that out there as a heads up. So I will kind of flash the description here up on the screen, and I'll let you kind of take a note of that. The part that I have up here on the screen, this would be basically a board with everything all in one. So you don't have to do any soldering. You don't have to do any of the breadboard stuff. If you're interested in the full build and you want to kind of learn electronics, go for it. If you're just interested in the tool and you want to get your own ESP32 Marauder, because there's some good use cases for it, both in terms of testing your network and in terms of some of the defensive stuff that it can do. If you're just interested in the unit and getting an ESP32 Marauder, you can try to purchase them. I've kind of found that the reputable sites are on way back order for this, so it's hard to get this device pre-installed from a reputable site. There's really not too many of them. What I would recommend, though, is if you're looking to follow along, get the part that I have listed up on the screen, and that should be able to find that for about $20. And then you would not have to do the soldering. You would not have to buy the parts separate. You would not have to wire it or do the breadboard. It would all basically come as one unit, pre-built. So it would look a little bit like the screen with the chip kind of embedded in it, and everything pre-wired. So if you're interested in getting one of these and don't want the adventure of wiring and soldering, definitely do that, because even with the wiring approach, you're not going to save any money that way. You're just going to get experience, and it's going to give you some flexibility to do other things like install antennas and other things. So we'll have the part up on the screen here, and then after this, I'm going to go ahead and get into the next step, which is once you have the hardware flashing the actual ESP32 Marauder program on it. All right, so up on the screen here, we've got the first page here, which is this is the GitHub repo. So it's kind of the location where the source code and the details for the ESP32 Marauder are located. So I will include a link to this in the full article write-up on targetedtechtalk.com. So if you're just kind of viewing the video and you don't have the link to the article should be in the details or the comment section below the video. Otherwise, you can directly grab the information at targetedtechtalk.com. Should be able to find the article on ESP32 Marauder. So that's the first page here. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be downloading 4 files. So if you're following along with these instructions, you will follow the V4 instructions is what this hardware corresponds to. So you would download 4 programs, basically 4 files. So bootloader, partitions, boot app, and firmware. And the names should be distinct, but you'll be able to kind of match them up in the next step. And then, so for this last link, the one you're going to want to find is the _oldhardware.bin, the V4. So follow the V4 instructions for this setup here. So then the next thing, they have a link here to this web updater. Once you download the 4 files that you need to set up your ESP32 Marauder. So you would connect the board, the microcontroller, to your computer via USB. So you should have or locate a cable that connects in to USB on that. And then with that connected, you can download these ahead of time if you'd like to have the files. You only need to do this step once, and then from here, it's installed, and you just boot up the device normally. So the very first time you do anything with ESP32, you most likely will also have to download and install the drivers for it. So the most common version is CP2110. So I'll also include a link to this page in the article write-up on targetedtechtalk.com. There is a couple different versions. So if you don't see CP2110 in the description for your ESP32, or when you connect it, if you don't see CP2110 or CP210, if you do not see that, there is alternate instructions for other versions. This is just the most common that I'm going to walk you through. So you would typically need to install the driver for the ESP32. So if it is a CP210, follow these instructions. If it is not a CP210, you can Google or research those specific instructions for your other model. If you have, so then here you would download and install the driver. So if you have Windows, that's the version you would install. Otherwise, if you have Mac, I think if you do the show more, there's a Linux version as well. So you would download and install the Windows drivers there. And then with those, if you're running a Windows machine, otherwise consult the specific version. So I think the one I installed was the most recent one here, which is the one on top from 2024 at the time of this recording. So that is the specific file to download if that matches. So then with the driver installed, that allows you to connect your ESP32 and recognize that. So you would have the 4 files downloaded and saved, and then the driver installed for the ESP32, and then you would use the web updater to push the updates. So a link is here. I can also include a link in the article that gives you this tool. So you connect. If you're not able to connect, that's a pretty good indication that you need to install the driver. There's some chance your computer has that driver pre-installed, but if you have kind of an out-of-the-box computer, most of the time you're going to have to explicitly install the driver. So once you're connected, so at this point, your ESP32 should be plugged in, and connected to your computer via USB. Then you just do the select and you match up the files that you downloaded here. So the 1000, 8000, E, and the 10,000, that corresponds to these numbers here. So bootloader partitions, boot app, and firmware. So you match them up. You click the program, it runs through, it'll take a couple minutes, and then you're done. And you've got ESP32 Marauder. So from here, I'm going to jump into the next section where we're going to do sort of a quick demo of what this looks like when it boots up. And then I'll wrap up the video by talking a bit about what you can do. And most likely there'll be some follow-up videos getting into more details about what you can do with the tool. And certainly we'll be mentioning this in the future. So that was sort of a quick demo or a little bit of a teaser as far as some of the look and feel of the ESP32 Marauder. It is a pretty simple, straightforward interface, so there's not a lot of fancy graphics and things like that. It's kind of a simpler text-based interface, but some of the screens do allow you to go into graphs and details, and it's pretty useful. So it's really about the functionality and not about the appearance. So that gives you a look at and a little bit of a preview about what the ESP32 Marauder looks like. So why might you be interested in this device? Basically, there's a couple purposes. On the defensive side of things, this has a number of very useful menu items that you can kind of get into there. So one of them would be the ability to detect credit card skimmers. So you see these a lot at gas station pumps and convenience stores. So this would be something, this ESP32 Marauder would be something you can kind of passively scan for those. Certainly you'd be within your rights to do that. And that would pop up if any of these credit card skimmers are in the environment. Most of those credit card skimmers are Bluetooth connected devices, and they have a specific signature. So this ESP32 Marauder, one of the things it does is it can scan for those. It can also scan for a number of other security and hacking tools. So you might have heard other names like Flipper Zero or Wi-Fi Pineapple. These are other security tools that if people are just kind of out there using them potentially against you or in your vicinity, these tools leave a signature as well. So there is menu options here with the ESP32 Marauder that allows you to detect these other devices and potentially capture information about them to the onboard storage so that you could have that for your use. So there's also a range of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth applications here. So there's sort of channel analyzers or scanners specifically for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. This is not a full signal analyzer across all spectrum. It's really focusing on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. other things that occur within Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, the Apple trackers. So the AirTags, if any of those are in your vicinity, you can use this to find them. You can also use this to identify any Bluetooth devices that may be turned on around or near you. I use this personally to find one computer that had Bluetooth enabled that I thought was turned off, but it was enabled. So this will allow you to kind of track down stuff like that and identify the source of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in your environment. So follow-up videos will go into that in more detail, exactly what you can do with the ESP32 Marauder. You can also use it to test your own network security. If you do have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth enabled, you can use this to see if it can be, if your own network can be hacked, and if so, that could be drivers for you to improve your security or minimize the use of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Is one of my recommendations. So that's it for part one, and follow-up videos should go into some more detail around ESP32 Marauder, some of those features and specific demos on some of these topics. Thanks for watching.